Welcome to Kathryn Raaker's World. Innovation, culture, adventure, fashion and health, artists, destinations, traditions. This is Kathryn Raaker's World.
Hi, this is Kathryn Raaker of Kathryn Raaker's World, our syndicated TV show, and Let's Just Talk, our syndicated radio show. And I have the honor of having on today Rick Copelan, President and CEO of the Better Business Bureau, serving the Tri-Counties about the new report and or to learn more about scams to local businesses. And this is really important, I think. In today's world, people are being taken advantage of. Welcome to our show, Rick. It's a pleasure to have you on.
Well, it's a pleasure to be on. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Oh, no problem. Well, half my family lives in California, or a portion of my family lives in California. So I'm really, I worry about them, as well. So tell me, let's talk about you, for instance, to start off with. How long have you been with the Better Business Bureau? Do you mind telling me?
It's been a while. I'm a veteran. It's funny. I started in 1986.
Oh, wow.
Fresh out of college, a couple of years out of college. And then BBB in San Diego, where I eventually became the vice president of sales and marketing. And then my wife, Carol Jamoni Copeland, and I took over this BBB in 1996. So I've been a CEO since 96.
Wow. Is there anything that has really shocked you?
Yeah, shocking. Shocks you get pretty jaded after that many years. But I'll tell you, one thing that never ceases to amaze me is how clever scam artists are. I mean, as soon as you figure out a way to warn people and to fight a certain kind of scam, they'll find another derivation of that scam, right?
Or they'll go bankrupt.
Yeah, well, yeah, and then they just start over
Right.
again.
Yeah, right.
But that's really what is amazing. Just and on that note, if I can say just as a quick aside, people should never, ever, ever be hesitant or for any reason about reporting that they've been scammed, because it happens to everybody. It's not probably not politically correct. It's not Joe Sixpack that's getting ripped off. It's everybody gets ripped off because these people are so clever. I've almost been ripped off, and not even that long ago. They're so clever that they know what buttons to push to lure you into their scheme.
Now, here's my question, because we did talk a little bit about, we're not going to talk about it totally on this, but if that person's company that scammed you isn't in your area, do you call the Better Business Bureau in that state and city?
Right. And most of that's done automatically. Of course, like 95% of everything we do is on the internet. So when you go to bbb.org, the main website, and you type in, Joe Scam Artist Garage or whatever, they're going to ask you for the address, and everything will be automatically routed to that BBB. And if you call a BBB, the staff will send you to the correct Better Business Bureau, the correct BBB being the one in whose service area that business exists.
Right. That makes sense. So can you tell us a little bit about, the report that you all did about this particular?
Right. Well, it was a nationwide. There's a group of about 5 Better Business Bureaus that periodically do these big studies, in-depth studies. And this one was basically on scams against business and across the country. And they found, as usual, numbers are increasing. Although I think, again, people are not reporting as they should, because
Mhm.
shame or whatever, or embarrassment, which is totally wrong. So we know that any numbers we give you are just literally the tip of the iceberg.
And the sad thing about it is these people are so smart that and this happened a few years ago where somebody wanted to start a new television station or not TV station, but something like that, and needed investors. So what did he do? Went out and got them. And guess
Yeah.
who? They all got stuck.
Yeah.
And that's the sad part. So, and then left the country.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm serious, not a joke. But those are the kind of things that are the scariest, right? Because what are you going to do when they leaves the country? How can you effectively enforce anything?
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, the FBI created the internet. I always mess this up. It's called IC3, and it's the Internet Crime Complaint Center. I may have that wrong. It's
Right.
IC3. Anyway, it's part of
Yeah.
the FBI. And when you're scammed by someone who is not in the country, that's about your only
Oh,
avenue trying to get any redress. But you know, I wouldn't hold my breath to get
I
my
wouldn't
money.
hold my breath either, to be honest about it. But anyhow, um, what kind of forms do business scams take? Let's talk about that for a minute.
Yeah, they some of them are still the same old. We still get, they used to call them toner phoners, and that's still going on. And that's where someone will call a company, usually a larger company, and they'll pretend that they're the normal company that ships to this company their toner supplies for their printers, copiers, business machines, whatever. And they'll get an okay for a shipment, and it'll arrive, grossly overpriced, of course, and all that. So we still have that kind of thing going on, kind of scam going on, but more and more of it, especially with AI, it's so much easier now to impersonate someone else, right? So we hear a lot of reports of, well, they've stolen someone's identity,
Right.
and that's a scam in itself, of course. But then they'll contact a company or consumers, and they'll tie a company into it. We've
Right.
seen where someone will say, they'll spoof a company check from a different company, and they'll say, hey, you won this money, but before you put this in your bank account, or they even let them put it in, but wire us or ACH us some kind of fee, and they'll look up that company name on that check, and it's legitimate because, again, they're impersonating them, but the check's no good. You don't know that. Of course, you wire the money out, and then it's gone. So
Well, PayPal, there's one out there right now with PayPal. And
yeah, we're having a heck of a time with people using Green Dot, the old Green Dot money orders you could get, I think, from Walmart. So people were doing that, using that for a long, long time, and that's starting to ease off. So really, it's kind of a little bit of the same old stuff, but mostly now it's stolen.
they
People steal identities and use that into
or
making
invoice, they're saying you
right,
have to
fake
pay this
invoice scam. Yeah,
invoice.
same thing, and
Somebody else's name on it, not yours.
yeah, that's why you people really need to independently verify who they're doing business with. Um, but like I said, these people are clever and they know how to push your button. Yeah, and remember too, I always remind people, I know there's always a fear to give someone your credit card number, right? When in reality, the chances of your credit card being hacked are more on the end of where it's stored at some business rather than you
Right.
giving it to a scam artist. And the reason we say the credit card is preferable if possible is because you can contest the charges within
Right.
whatever 60 days. So at least you have that protection. So
Does the BBC scam tracker show an increase in business scams or personal scams?
again, it does, but it should be exponentially higher. And I mean, again, we hear so much anecdotal information from people when they call us or email us. So the numbers have increased over time, but I think it's a lot more than we even know about.
Well, I'm glad I've got great business, partners and friends because they alert me to stuff, which is great. And
Yeah,
it's like protect me, you know. But
yeah.
what are some of the common scams in your Tri-County area surrounding Santa Barbara?
Well, you mentioned one of them, the fake vendor account thing. We get a lot of that. People wind up paying someone who's not who they intended to pay. Too good to be true service agreements. We get some of that from time to time. But the suspicious email, it's funny to me. Here on the one hand, they say how clever scam artists have become. Well, they always were, but I mean, with AI, they're even more clever. And this is kind of scary. The point I'm trying to make is on suspicious emails and even the fake invoice scam, a lot of times they don't use spell check, right? So that's a dead giveaway when you see punctuation errors and this kind of thing. And you would think would use AI to clean up those telltale signs. But so far, I haven't really seen it. I mean, they're not doing that. So they'll just send you some email that's suspicious. But when you start noticing the misspellings and the punctuation errors, a red flag should go up like no other.
Crazy.
And
Well, the other thing is when you look at the top of where it came from and just look at the way it's done, then you can tell if it's really, they're so good. Even they use logos, they use everything to make you
yeah,
think that that situation is true instead of not. The only thing that worries me sometimes is if you go into the email but don't respond to it, can they go farther?
I think, well, for sure, you don't want to open any attachments, that's the main thing. And I think every day our email servers are becoming smarter. I don't know about you, but on our email, we have a really robust system that filters out sometimes too much stuff. But I think the email services are a lot better than they once were. So
Right, that's for sure. So I got the second one today. I just went, you're going in the trash can right now. So anyhow, and people want you to use all these different ones, but once you've been hacked in any way, shape, or form, you don't want to use them anymore.
yeah, that's for sure. You sure get scorned, and boy, it's that's one of the very worst things to recover from is if someone hacks you know, into your accounts. To recover from that is not a simple overnight process.
No, I mean,
That's
it's being robbed. You're being robbed.
yeah,
Actually, and when you are physically robbed, you call every single account. I mean, it happened to me in Spain,
yeah,
and they got everything.
yeah.
Everything.
It happens.
It happens is right. And so let your people know. So we need to take a short break, Rick, and we'll be right back. Would you give your website, please?
Yes, it's www.bbb.org.
All right, and we'll be right back after these important messages on Kathryn Raaker's Let's Just Talk and Kathryn Raaker's World. We'll be right back. We're back on Kathryn Raaker's Let's Just Talk and Kathryn Raaker's World with Rick Copelan, who is the CEO of the Better Business Bureau, serving the Tri-Counties. And what are those Tri-Counties, Rick?
Well, it's a Ventura County, Santa Barbara County, and San Luis Obispo County. In fact, if you watch the news and are aware of the big fire out here right now, the Gifford fire, that's in our service area.
Oh, it is.
Yeah,
Oh, where is that in San Luis Obispo or where?
it's the border of Santa Barbara and San Luis Obispo counties,
If you've
Central
never
California.
been there before, you have to go. It's so beautiful, right?
Kind of smoky right now, but
It's
pretty
smoky
still.
right now, right? Well, we're getting the Canadian smoke. Thank you very
Oh,
much.
wow. Yeah.
Anyhow, let's talk about uh, do some companies go out of business because of losses from scams? And are there companies that are repeatedly scammed?
I'm trying to think. I know some companies have been badly damaged, but I'm not aware in my experience of anyone going out of business because they've been scammed. I mean, it's probably happened. I just don't know of it. And some that get, I know that the large employers get repeatedly scammed because it's just a numbers game. The scam artists are trying to contact different people and staff changes and all that. So they're more susceptible to it. While at the same time, statistically, it's the smaller companies that get scammed the most often.
Mhm. Well, the other thing is, when at least the internet and everything that I use, right, has my phone and everything else, and all of a sudden, if the phone rings, and if I'm happening to watch the news or anything, it'll say spam or it'll say scam, don't answer, you know, which is smart when you think about it. If I don't know the number for my business, the for my own company or my own personal company, right, or my personal telephone or whatever, or internet, I won't answer it. Or I'll go, I love this one. Or I'll go, hello, can I help you? They hang up.
A lot of us, I suspect you're this way too. We were born and raised to be courteous, right? And it's
Right,
against our nature not to answer a ringing phone call,
right,
right?
right.
But I'm telling you, in this day's world, yes, I'm same as you. If I don't recognize the number, there's no caller ID. Hey, they can leave a message. I'll call them back if they're legitimate.
That's
No
right.
problem. So better safe than sorry.
That's right. And you know what they tend to do, especially, is seniors, that they are so easily led to sending money, or they'll prey on them in the sense of your grandson's in jail, or your grandson has been hurt, or anything to shock them into doing something like that, to giving them money or thousands of dollars.
You know
So,
what the saddest and the most damaging are the romance scams, right?
oh yeah, that's
They
work.
they find a lonely person, maybe a widow or widower, and and they've developed these spiels, for lack of a better term, to use over a period of years to develop a relationship, and then it's just to drain their bank accounts, and
Mhm.
those are the worst because they just leave people devastated. And I have friends that are bankers, and they've said they've seen people down there withdrawing money and ask them, why are you doing, this kind of thing. And it's really hard, no matter how many times you tell them, hey, you're probably being. I had a own family member say he had a girlfriend who was going to come visit him from Germany, and I'm like, Germany? How could you develop her? I mean, obviously it's possible, but to me, being from my background, I'm, immediately I say that's suspicious. This is an older person. Sounds like a romance scam to me.
Well,
So
they watch these TV shows where they get married in 24 hours and all this other junk that's out there now. And they think,
yeah,
oh, it's okay. I'm not gonna get hurt. Yeah, right.
yeah.
Wrong. So now, what types of businesses get scammed more frequently?
Well, again, statistically, it's the smaller ones because, of course, they're smaller businesses. But I think the larger ones are more apt to be scammed repeatedly. But it's your small business, a mom and pop shop. You can get on the phone and talk to the owner, and they're busy and they're doing other things, and maybe they're too trustworthy, that kind of a thing. So if you're two or three to 10 employee kind of business, you really have to have your guard up because they're coming after you for sure. Um, so it's sad, but you got to be suspicious all the time.
Right. And another one is that I use, or my husband uses all the time, because we have business and, personal. And, oh, did I win something? The lottery? Really? When are you going to that kind of thing? Something that would shock them to hang up,
Yeah.
you know? And it works every time. And sometimes it's better to hear a man's voice than a woman's voice.
Yeah.
And he has such a way of doing it that they hang up immediately.
And
So,
that's something too. I mean, not so much. It's funny. We used to have a ton of that, and
mhm,
I'm personally not hearing that much of it anymore. I
mhm,
mean, it's still out there, the
yeah,
sweepstakes and all that, but it's really, again, they're getting a little more clever
yeah.
and identity theft is what they're generally
Really,
trying
that's
to
what they're
do.
looking for. It's like
Yeah.
it's your identity. And how do you protect yourself, Rick, if that happens to you? What should you do? Not give them the money, that's for sure.
Yeah. Well, I said an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure, right? And with scam artists, well, first, let me put it this way. I mean, you really have to look out for things where they're asking. There's an urgency, and in our area, there are a lot of nonprofits in Central California. Santa Barbara is really a hub of nonprofits. So whenever you see a natural disaster, you're going to get contacted by scam artists trying to get you to donate money, for instance, to the Texas flood victims, and
Right.
so you really have to go to the internet. There's some good, reliable sources to check on charities, like, well, the arm of the BBB that you can use to check on charities is give.org, give.org. But there are several others too. Um, um, let's see, and what else? And the internet. So, like I said, you have the ounce of prevention. It comes from you just going to the internet, going to give.org, or if it's some other scam, and just say, hey, is this company? Ask Google. And AI, is taking over. It used to be all search engine optimization is what companies and scam artists were looking for. Now it's AI. If you notice when you search on the internet search engines, now you'll see a little AI answer pop up, and they're not entirely 100% accurate, by the way,
Mhm.
but they do establish a guideline for you. That a lot of times they'll say check here and check here and here if they don't have the data themselves. So I think that might help. But again, those little scam artists, they'll find a way around it, I guarantee it.
Well, I always go and check, is this company real?
Yeah,
And
yeah,
is this company still in business? Where is this company? And then I look up for the corporate office. But that's from years of being in the business of working in finance and checking people out.
yeah.
And I think that you learn everything. You're constantly learning and what to use. Am I right?
Yeah, and I just have to mention, you mentioned, and I know of your background in finance. We had one recent victim. He got roped into a 12-month agreement with the company, with the finance company. Now the problem is, and this was over internet service,
Mhm.
another company was involved who contacted him, sold him on, I think, a VoIP phone system and things like this, website, all that. And then financed them through a legitimate finance company, but the company who contacted them was not legitimate, and they wound up, they got a ton of money, getting the new client for the finance company, but then they just disappeared and they misrepresented what they presented to the business owner, and he wound up.
Right.
I mean, he was stuck because they had a legitimate contract with the finance company, but he wasn't as clear, or he didn't clarify as much as he should have what kind of agreement he was entering with the guy who was selling the service. So that was
And
kind
make
of one
sure
off.
and check out the company with the Better Business Bureau
That's
because
right.
right, that's what you guys are there for, right?
That's
I,
right.
I do that all the time because I think it's important to know who you're dealing with. But people are getting so clever, like you said. But are there any new trends that you're seeing, not just in your area, but people that you probably share with each other, Better Business Bureau? across the country share things, right? Are there any new
We
trends you're seeing?
we do, and one thing I could recommend is we have a website that's called Scam Tracker. You can go to any internet and just go BBB Scam Tracker, and it has all kinds of information on what kinds of scams we're currently seeing. And
Experiencing?
again, here in our area, we're getting a lot of the, like I've already mentioned, the fake invoice scams, this kind of a thing. But that's a good resource to check. And as a reminder, like you said, always check with the BBB, check the company out with the BBB. Most people think, or a lot of people think, that the reports that we have, reliability reports, are only on our accredited businesses. That's not true. I mean, the vast majority of reliability reports we have are not on accredited businesses. They're just companies that interact with the public or other businesses and happen to get complaints and inquiries, we call them. So be aware of that. Don't think that only members have reports, because that's not the case.
Now, listen, I want to ask another question, and that is, do you have reviews of the companies? In other words, somebody has an F or an A, or how do you rate them?
So we do rate companies on a scale of A plus down to F, and an algorithm does it, and it takes into account things like the length of time a company's been in business, complaint traffic. Actually, complaint traffic as compared to the volume of business a company does. That's important. I mean, we have companies with A plus ratings, but they may have 1,000 complaints. Well, that tells you they have a whole lot of customers, you know.
So where do you
Um,
go to find that then?
for these big companies like this, where the comparison of the volume of business to the number of complaints is important, is generally on larger companies. And a lot of times that again, the internet, there's a lot of resources that are done in Bradstreet, Manta, all kinds of them, where you get the company's gross annual revenue. That's what we use as the measuring stick to determine how
Yeah,
big a company is.
right, right.
And you mentioned reviews. BBB publishes customer reviews. In fact, a Bright local survey 2 years ago showed that people trust BBB customer reviews more than on any platform, because we carefully vet those reviews. And what I mean is that when one comes in, an email automatically goes to the reviewer, so they have to verify they're alive, and then we send it to the business, importantly, for them to review before we publish it. So unlike other places, we don't just throw it out there, because a lot of times we find out, hey, this is not a customer of mine. This is a competitor trying to smear me or whatever,
Right.
So also, though, I mean, our customer reviews tend to skew to the negative, because generally when you go to the BBB, and it's because you're unhappy with you're either looking a company up or you're unhappy with them. So naturally, uh,
Yeah.
your complaint's most likely going to be negative. But I guess it's worth mentioning that unlike complaints, if a consumer files a customer review and the company, makes it right with them or whatever, the consumer can ask us to remove their customer review, and we can do it. We can't do that with complaints. They stay, but reviews are different. So that's pretty cool, I think. And
That's
the
pretty
company
cool.
can respond to the review right there too.
So I want to thank you so much. You're becoming my best friend in the BBB. So
Sounds good.
anyhow, yeah, right. So I want to thank you so much for joining me. I'd love to have you back on, because I think people need to hear what you have to say. I want to thank you so much for joining me today on Kathryn Raaker's World and Let's Just Talk. Would you give your website out, please?
Love to. It's www.bbb.org.
Okay, and thank you for joining me on Kathryn Raaker's World and Let's Just Talk. We'll see you soon.